We all know Napoleon Bonaparte in some way. Perhaps it was how he ended the French Revolution, or it could be his legendary strategy that won him countless battles, or probably how most of us remember him from his very short stature. However, this was average height for the time. Now, let's fast forward to June of 1815. Napoleon started his day at Le Caillou, where he had spent the night. During breakfast, he was informed by Soult to recall his already sent out troops. This was because Wellington's men had recently made camps around Waterloo, which is in present-day Belgium. When told of this, Napoleon stated, "Just because you have all been beaten by Wellington, you think he's a good general. I tell you Wellington is a bad general. The English are bad troops, and this affair is nothing more than eating breakfast." This was Napoleon's first large mistake leading up to the Battle of Waterloo, underestimating his opponent. In our timeline, this mistake would come back to haunt him in the battle, when he was cornered, sieged, and mutinied against. This would end up with him being exiled to the island of Elba. However, in this timeline, Napoleon decided to face Wellington head-on. This would happen prior to the arrival of Blucher's men. Napoleon would have left France with around 70,000 men to meet with his already dispatched men. Once met up in Brussels, the combined French forces would march towards Waterloo, where Wellington's army was currently positioned. Once Napoleon's army had arrived at Waterloo, they made camp for the night, planning to attack in the following morning. Wellington would be informed of the French advance and would prepare to lay siege to Napoleon until Blucher's reinforcements arrived. Napoleon would split his forces into smaller militias, which is a pretty common tactic he used. Of the three sections, the larger first militia would commence a head-on attack as sort of a diversion, while the two other smaller militias were sent around the sides to surround Wellington's army. The diversion worked, and Napoleon engaged Wellington, while the other two militias were working their way around Wellington's army. In a couple of hours, Napoleon's secondary armies made it to the back of Wellington's camp. At this point, all three French forces closed in on Wellington, causing him to surrender the very same day. Of the 68,000 men in Wellington's army, he suffered around 33,000 losses to Napoleon's loss of 12,000 of his 70,000. These were fairly good numbers considering Wellington had been harboring the high ground. With Wellington defeated, only Blucher's army was left for Napoleon to deal with. However, this would have to wait until the next day. Next day, Blucher kept on marching. He kept marching until he was in sight of Wellington's former camp. Here, Napoleon had been fortifying and getting prepared for the fight to come. So when scouts saw Blucher's military, they alerted Napoleon, who gave the order to open fire. Of course, Blucher was unaware that Wellington had surrendered to Napoleon, so when Blucher's men finally loaded their rifles, they had already sustained significant losses. Blucher only managed to get one round off before he gave the order to retreat backwards. Napoleon noticed this and decided to pursue and destroy in hopes it would end the war. Napoleon would be successful in this pursuit and captured a surrounding Blucher hiding in a nearby forest. This major loss disbanded the coalition. The outcomes of this event would be each member of the coalition to pay a significant amount to Napoleon and give up portions of land to France. Napoleon would also tell all coalition members to shrink the size of active military combatants. All countries did so, but Germany and Britain made a compromise with France where they would demilitarize territory near France and would enclose enlistment in large cities. Without being exiled, Napoleon was able to live a long life of ruling France and improving its economy, and eventually dying in 1833 at the age of 73.